And that really is my disclaimer. A couple years ago in Skokie, Illinois, I did a huge event in a Barnes & Noble, and they asked me to read in the children's department. And I must have done a 20-minute version of "The world's full of beautiful, elegant, funny, but tonight will not be." And still, during Q&A, I called on the one man whose jaw was really set, standing there so angry. I said, "What's your question?" And he had a thick Scottish accent. And he goes, "Is it true, Mr. Palahniuk, that you masturbate to Brad Pitt's naked pictures?"
Wow.
That's one that Maya Angelou never had to feel. So, it's likely that you might be offended or challenged by something I say tonight. I was at a charity dinner a while ago, earlier this summer, and I was sitting at a table with an oncologist, this cancer specialist, really somebody who is one of the top people in cancer research. And he was telling this funny story, rollicking story, about sitting on an airplane, and he was having a glass of wine almost the day before. And the woman sitting next to him was very chatty, and she said that she would love to have a glass of wine. She really loved wine. But lately, every time she had drunk any wine, she felt this fantastic burning pain at the base of her throat. Wine or beer or any kind of liquor, she felt this stabbing pain right here. And so she thought that that meant that God did not want her to drink wine anymore. And so, if that's what God wanted, she wasn't going to drink any more wine. And this man at the table telling the story leaned over to her and said, "No, ma'am, I'm an oncologist, and that is what's known as a canary indicator, like a canary in a coal mine, a very early indicator. If you have a pain here at the base of your throat when you drink alcohol, that means you've got Hodgkin's lymphoma. And it's pretty much an undeniable indicator. And it means you should contact your primary care physician right away, because it's fairly advanced and you're likely going to die soon."
Oh boy.
And he said that she was not very chatty after that. And he gave her his card, and a week later her primary care physician called him and said, "You know, you nailed it. You were right. And she is probably going to die this summer. But she could have been a little less of a prick about it." And so in a way, I think that's what the purpose, that's what a writer's job is to tell you something that is memorable and troubling. Because I love to drink. I love to drink wine especially. But every time I go to take that first drink of wine now, and you for the rest of your lives, every time you get that wine in your mouth and you're about to swallow it, you'll think, "Please don't hurt." And it will ruin that first drink for the rest of your life. But when it doesn't hurt, it will taste so much better than it ever, even shitty wine. So, if I say something troubling, chances are, it might make your life better in some obscure way. The filmmaker's already making a film of it, a man named Andy Mingo. So it's in post-production being edited right now. But the story is called Romance. You should congratulate me. My wife and I, we just had twins, and they seem okay. 10 fingers, 10 toes, 2 little girls. But you know the feeling. I keep waiting for something to go wrong, because that's how it is when things get too happy. I keep expecting to wake up from this beautiful dream. I mean, back before I was married, I had this one girlfriend who was fat. We were both of us fat together. So we got along. That girlfriend, she was always testing us on new diets to lose weight, like eating nothing except pineapple and vinegar, or nothing but green algae from an envelope. And she was suggesting we take long walks together until she started to shed the pounds. Her hips just melted away. And you never saw anybody so happy. Even then, I knew something would wreck it. You know the feeling. When you love somebody, you're happy to see her happy. But I knew my girlfriend was going to dump me. Because now guys with careers and health insurance, they were getting her on their radar. I remember she was pretty and funny before, but now that she was getting so skinny, it was obvious that she possessed vast, untapped reserves of self-control and self-discipline way out of my league. And my friends weren't any help, because they were all circling, waiting for us to call it quits so they could date her. And then it turned out it wasn't the pineapple or the self-discipline, because she found out that she really had cancer. But she slipped down to wearing a bitchin' hot size 2. Just before she died. That's how I know happiness is like a ticking bomb. And how I met my wife is because I wasn't going to date anybody, not anymore, no way. So I was taking the Amtrak to New York City. It was the year of Lollapalooza in New York City. And I packed my tent and wrapped my sleeping bag to protect my bomb. So I could camp out all weekend like a Grizzly Adams. And I walked into the bar car on the train. You know how sometimes you just need to leave the friends and the sobriety behind for a few days. I walked into the bar car and there's this total stone-cold fox pair of green eyes looking right directly at me. And I'm not a monster. I'm not some reality show blimp stuck in a hospital bed eating buckets of fried chicken all day. But I can understand why guys would want to work as guards in women's prisons or concentration camps, where you could just date good-looking prisoners without those babes always saying, "Put a shirt on," and asking, "Do you always have to sweat so much?" But on the train, here's this goddess wearing a Radiohead t-shirt cut off to show her bare middle, and her jeans sag down to where there ought to be bush showing. And she's wearing Mickey Mouse and Holly Hobby rings around every finger, holding a beer to her beautiful lips, and looking at me down the length of that brown bottle, just an ordinary MGD, not some pussy microbrew in a green bottle. And guys like me, we know the score. Unless you're John Belushi or John Candy, no hottie is going to put you in that kind of an eye lock. So right away, I know to look away from her in shame. The only reason why a girl like her would talk to me is to break the news that I'm a gross fat pig, and I'm blocking her entire view of the ocean. Know your limits, I always say. Aim low and you won't be disappointed. Edging past her, I look without looking. I check her out and she smells good, like some kind of dessert, like a baked pie, like a pumpkin pie with those red-brown spices on top. Better yet, the beer bottle in her mouth turns to follow me as I walk down the aisle to the bar and order around, and it's not as if we're the last boy and girl in the whole world. A bunch of other people are drinking at the plastic tables, going to Lollapalooza from the look at their dreads and tie-dye. I walk all the way to the most faraway table from her, that this hottie watches me go all the way. You know the feeling. When somebody's watching, you can't take one step without stumbling, especially on a moving around train. I go to take a drink as the train turns a corner, and I spilled the beer down my striped cowboy shirt. I'm pretending to watch the trees going by outside the window, but from a secret agent angle. I'm watching her reflection in the glass, and she's still watching me. The only time she looks away is when she steps up to the bar and gives the bartender some money, and he gives her another beer, and then her reflection is getting bigger and bigger until it's life-sized, and she's standing next to my table and says, "Hi," and something else, and I say, "What?" And she points at my cowboy shirt, at the beer spilled there, and she says, "I like your buttons, shiny." I tap my chin and look down at the pearl-colored snaps. They're not buttons, they're snaps. But I don't want to scotch this moment.